Hi, my name is Pamela Coons, Associate Professor of Medicine in the Division of Oncology at Yale School of Medicine and Yale Cancer Center. I'm excited to announce ASCO's new open access journal, JCO Oncology Advances. As the inaugural editor-in-chief, I hope to support JCO Oncology Advances to become the premier platform to bridge the gap between accessible scientific research and clinical care. Stay tuned for more information, including new article types, at ascopubs.org/JCO Oncology Advances. We look forward to seeing your submissions in spring of 2024.
This JCO podcast provides observations and commentary on the JCO article, Risk of Incremental Toxicities and Associated Costs of New Anti-Cancer Drugs, a meta-analysis by Saroj Narula et al. My name is David Steensma, and I'm a faculty member in the Department of Medical Oncology at the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute and Harvard Medical School in Boston, Massachusetts. My oncologic specialty is hematologic malignancies, specifically leukemia and myelodysplastic syndromes. It's no secret that most of the new anti-cancer drugs approved by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration in the last 10 years are extremely costly. Figuring out how to pay for these is a major challenge for healthcare systems and political leaders. When new drugs lead to longer survival or better quality of life for people with cancer, a price tag of thousands of dollars per month might be justified. But when calculating whether or not the cost of a new drug is appropriate or reasonable, it's important to remember that the price tag of the drug, that is, whether the price is reckoned using the average wholesale price or the price that the patient pays at the pharmacy, does not represent the whole cost associated with the drug. We also need to consider the cost of adverse effects caused by the drug. A cheap drug that often causes serious side effects requiring hospitalization is not truly inexpensive. Conversely, an expensive drug that prevents costly complications seen with older agents may turn out to be a relative bargain. Many novel anti-cancer agents, such as monoclonal antibodies and kinase inhibitors, are narrowly targeted and have fewer adverse effects compared to their predecessors. But some new agents can cause serious toxicity. Costs associated with toxicity need to be taken into account when considering the economic burden of each new treatment. In order to better understand the true cost of new cancer drugs, investigators from Canada, Spain, and Slovenia, led by Narula in Winnipeg and Tannick in Toronto, assessed the frequency and cost of Grade 3 and Grade 4 adverse events associated with 19 experimental agents that were approved by the U.S. FDA between 2000 and 2011. The researchers examined 41 pivotal trials supporting regulatory approval, which collectively enrolled more than 27,000 patients. In those trials, nearly 6,000 Grade 3 and Grade 4 adverse events were tabulated. Of the 41 studies, 32 included an active control, 9 compared a new agent to a placebo or to best supportive care. Almost all of these studies were industry-sponsored. The investigators divided the new agents into 3 classes. Their first class are agents directed against specific targets. This class of drug includes imatinib, lapatinib, and panitumumab. The second class are less specifically targeted agents, bortezomib, lenalidomide, sorafenib, and sunitinib, drugs that either inhibit a broad range of kinases or that modulate a cellular pathway such as the proteasome that has pleiotropic effects. The third class are more conventional chemotherapy agents, that is, cytotoxics. This class includes drugs like bendamustine, docetaxel, and pemetrexed. We might quibble with this classification a bit, since imatinib and lapatinib have off-target effects too, and we've recently learned that the effects of lenalidomide, in myeloma at least, are mediated by a specific ubiquitin ligase and a pair of related transcription factors. Everything else that happens is downstream of that interaction. But it is classification that the investigators used and is probably how many oncologists think, at least operationally, about new drugs. The estimated costs assigned by the investigators for specific adverse events was based on a series of previously published formal economic analyses, adjusted for inflation since each of those analyses was published. Of course, those economic analyses made specific assumptions that were based on the healthcare system that the analysts were considering, and your mileage may vary. Some adverse events were judged to be relatively inexpensive, such as rash or fatigue. Others, especially those requiring inpatient hospitalization, such as febrile neutropenia or gastrointestinal perforation, exceeded more than $20,000 per episode. The cost of treatment-induced complications, primarily managed as an outpatient, varied substantially too. Neuropathy was estimated to have an inflation-adjusted cost of $6,450 per patient, compared to just $750 for stomatitis. Of course, these dollars and cents costs do not take into account indirect costs, such as loss of work productivity, nor do they consider intangible costs, such as the pain and suffering of patients. Grade 1 and Grade 2 adverse events can also be problematic, even though they weren't considered by the investigators. But this approach is still useful as a guideline. The researchers found that the more narrowly targeted agents had fewer adverse events than comparator approaches. They estimated that compared to the treatment the targeted drugs were replacing, these new drugs were associated with overall adverse effect cost reduction of about $50 per patient per month. However, for less specifically targeted agents, including angiogenesis inhibitors and chemotherapeutic agents, the adverse event cost was greater than for controls, to the tune of $140 to $275 per month. Now, these figures are still low compared to the $6,000 per patient per month median price tag for the drugs themselves, estimated using the Red Book wholesale price. In fact, many of the newest agents have a cost that exceeds $10,000 per month, so a $50 or even a $500 per month difference in adverse effect costs seems like a drop in the bucket. But while these adverse effect costs overall are somewhat small, it's still important to take into account such costs from a healthcare payer's perspective. And in the individual patient, the cost of an adverse effect can be substantial. We are living in an exciting era in which every ASCO meeting and JCO issue features discussion of new, effective, less toxic, highly targeted anti-cancer agents. The treatment options available to practicing oncologists and to our patients are so much greater than what was available a generation ago. We are in the middle of a sea change in medical oncology towards more narrowly targeted and in many cases more effective treatments. And this makes practice exciting, and it continues to draw eager young physicians into our field, despite the growing challenges of medical practice in this era. But this analysis is, I think, a reminder that just like the sticker price on the new car is not what you'll end up paying the dealership, the cost of new drugs is not just the price listed in the Red Book. The whole picture needs to be taken into account. This concludes this JCO podcast. Thank you for listening.
For more original research, editorials, and review articles, please visit us online at jco.org. This production is copyrighted to the American Society of Clinical Oncology. Thank you for listening.